Well, as you can see, we are coming to you from inside this beautiful historic theater for today's show, the Neptune. It really is a jewel of Seattle, and so I am joined now by historian Feliks Banel to talk a little bit about the history of this theater. We were talking off camera about how sometimes when you come in a theater, you just want to sit and look up and look at all of the small details, and you actually noticed something you'd never noticed here before.
I've been coming to the Neptune Theatre for probably 45 years, and I looking carefully at the little keystones over the doorways, and there's little intertwined fish. Never noticed those before. Very cool. So much stuff like this in this great 1921 building.
Right, so let's talk about that. Opened in 1921. What was going on in Seattle at the time? Describe it to us.
A few years after World War I, and Seattle was really industrializing, and so a neighborhood like the University District, where the university has been for about 25 years at that point, it's becoming one of the first really big urban neighborhoods in the city, away from downtown.
Yeah.
And the 1920s is all about the booming economy. The movies are huge, middle-class entertainment. Seattle's becoming this big metropolitan area that I think if we went back in time and were dropped on the street in 1921 Seattle, we'd recognize a lot of it. The big buildings wouldn't be there, but places like the Neptune would be, and we'd see sort of the bones of the city that haven't changed much in 102 years.
Yeah, and this feels like a very intimate type theater to us now, but then this was majesty, right?
It's pretty good size. Like, not all the neighborhood theaters had a balcony the way the Neptune Theatre does. And you know, it was all about silent movies. It opened with this movie called Serenade, described as a romance of old Spain. And so for the first decade or so, it's really about silent movies. That's why they had a Kimball organ, a giant pipe organ down in the front here, that a live person sat and played, accompanying every movie that was shown here.
Incredible.
And then when movies changed to talkies around 1930, the cool thing about the Neptune, it's adapted. Every 10, 20, 30 years, something big changes in the economy or in the technology, and the Neptune changes along with it, and that's why it's still here. So we went from silent film to talkies. They put in a new sound system and everything, and that was kind of the bread and butter of this theater for decades, 40s, 50s, 60s even. It changes when television comes on the scene in the 1950s. A lot of people stayed home to watch movies on television. But theaters somehow survived, including this one. You get to the 1970s. Remember Rocky Horror Picture Show?
I do.
This was one of the theaters that had like the longest running engagement of that movie. I think it played something every week for 14 or 15 years.
Wow.
People would dress up and everything. I'm sort of biased toward businesses that are actually community gathering spots too. It's like it's a gas station. People pay to gather here and see art together. And that's just, it makes it kind of magical. And the fact that it's a city landmark, it's protected. And now since I think 2011, this Seattle Theater Group's been, it's not a movie theater so much anymore, it's about live performance.
Yeah.
It's adapted yet again to continue to survive and thrive here more than 100 years after it was first opened. You can't say that about very many things in any cities, and especially Seattle.
Very true. And this area too is an interesting one because even back when this theater opened, University of Washington was here. Obviously the U District looks far different now, but did that play into this theater being opened in this particular location?
I think it did. I think there was really a growing population here. The University Way, tons of business, tons of students living here pretty much year-round, not in the summer so much, but it contributed to the University District being a pretty robust urban neighborhood, unlike like Ravenna or some other part of town that was more strictly suburban. This was like a little separate urban sort of a satellite away from downtown Seattle, and a theater like the Neptune made perfect sense.
Okay, we also have to talk about the windows that are in here. They're iconic, but not as old as people might think.
And I only learned this a couple of years ago. They look like they go back to 1921. They look like stained glass. Or you see King Neptune, you see, I think, Amphitrite, who's the princess or the goddess of the sea or something.
Easy
it's Roman
for you
mythology,
to say.
it's Greek mythology. I had to look this stuff up. But they look like they'd be these beautiful stained glass windows from 100 years ago. They're actually stained plastic.
Oh.
Well, I learned this as well, is that Dale Chihuly, the famous glass artist, says stained plastic is even more rare than stained glass. And they probably date to the 1960s. I mean, the King Neptune kind of looks like a member of Fleet Foxes, kind of like the big beard and stuff. They could be kind of a roots rocker type of guy. And Amphitrite, she has sort of a 60s screen goddess kind of look. So they are really bizarre. And I mean, I was allowed to touch them once. I don't recommend it, but you can sort of confirm that they are in fact stained plastic, which is really weird, but kind of cool too. There's a mystery there. Someone needs to unravel where they really came from. Nobody knows.
I feel like you're the man to do it.
Yeah.
How important is the Neptune to Seattle?
I think it was important before the pandemic, but as we're seeing as the pandemic is hopefully completely ending soon, people want to get back together. They want to see live performance. They want to see their neighbors. They want to actually hear live people doing live things, not just listen to recordings or not just sit in front of a computer screen watching something on some weird software or something.
Yeah.
So I think the Neptune, the way it's managed now with the roster and the variety of the artists, it's poised to always be this perfect gathering spot, close to light rail, close to tens of thousands of university students, easy to get to. I think it's got a really good future ahead.
That's great. Thank you for joining us. And